Walaikum assalam, Irma. So good to have you. Cool. I'm just waiting for Mavish to get on. There you
Alright.
are. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. All right.
Stand is giving me trouble.
Hmm. Let me know whenever you're ready.
My stand wouldn't go on landscape. Give me 1 minute.
So, Irma, today's topic is women of Islam. But we're gonna just start in shortly.
Technical difficulty.
Yeah, that's fine. It's my first ever discussion live. So let's hope it goes well, inshallah.
Assalamualaikum, Emma.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. All right. Assalamu alaikum, friends. Welcome to Let's Chat. It's a simple talk show, and we're just gonna try our best to bring awareness towards social issues, cultural issues we all face in our daily lives, and sometimes we're shy about discussing those things. And our goal is to keep our discussions solution oriented, inshallah. So we're not just here to talk about things. We're going to try to come up with solutions, and our intentions are to help people like us,
Yeah.
inshallah. So I have Mehvish with me. She is my really good friend, and what I loved that the way our simple phone calls turn into really insightful, inspiring discussions, and that inspired us to have this show that we wanted to bring this discussion to everybody and open the floor for others also to participate, inshallah. So bring us your issues, anything you want to talk about, anything you want us to talk about, or you want to join us in the show. And we welcome differences of opinions, of course, with respect and tolerance. This is not particularly a religious show or a therapy session, nothing like that. I know we all have both of us have some background in that, but we're not conducting a therapy session here. We're just discussing our social, cultural, and Islamic issues, challenges we face in our daily lives, and we all struggle on different at different levels with all those things. So we're just gonna discuss, just we're turning our phone calls into a show.
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So I'll let you introduce yourself, Mavish. Go ahead before we start, inshallah.
Assalamualaikum, guys. A little bit of background about myself is I have a bachelor's in family sciences, which basically kind of is a very general degree in the sense I learned about marriage therapy, child therapy, psychology, individual, family, cultural, all of that. And then I went ahead and specialized in school counseling, where I learned about school, child psychology, and then a little bit of mental health as well. So that's my background. But pretty much, as Binish said, we have very, very interesting talks. And I think the goal is to just to create awareness, talk about topics, as she mentioned, that we don't really talk about that much. or and kind of bring it into a light where we discuss it, where we are viewing it from a cultural lens and also from a religious lens, but not, but basically just to bring our own viewpoints, our own um, life experiences to it and add to it and just kind of talk about it. And of course, it's always good to have different opinions. I think that's how a person grows. So I think kind of looking forward to this. So that's inshallah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, absolutely. Yeah, so today's topic, as you all know, is women of Islam. And I'm going to put forward this question, Mavish. Who are the women of Islam? Generally, what I have noticed, our thought process, when we mention women of Islam, we straight up go to the women of at the time of Prophet ﷺ or before them. And no doubt that they were the best women of Islam, and they should be our role models. But there is a disconnect here. Do we consider ourselves women of Islam or not? Or are our thoughts, our beliefs are limited to just those women? The best women of Islam were the women of Islam. Are we not women of Islam? What do you think?
Yeah, that's true. I think what happens is they are, I think what happens is they've kind of put on a pedestal where we are inspired by them, but we don't even try to do what they have done. And I think we, compared to them, have so many advantages. But I think the kind of disconnect that happens is we don't know our rights. Many of us know our rights based on culture. We don't know our rights as a Muslim woman. And if we know it, so the first part is knowing your rights. And then the second part is trying to get those rights. And I think many times women are kind of brought up in a society where if they, even if they know their rights, they're asked not to ask for it because it's not the correct thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the disconnect kind of happens. Because if you look at the women in Islam in like what the 15th, 16th century, the amount of work they did, it is very, very inspiring. And they did it in a time where women had pretty much none of the rights we do now. So I always, that's why I'm like, okay, we're the women of Islam and all that, but are we, and we take inspiration, but are we actually doing any part of what they did?
Mm-hmm.
Are we demanding our rights? And it was a pretty patriarchal society at that time also, more
Yeah,
so than it is
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So why are we not demanding rights? And we don't even, sometimes I think the issue also comes is we're not even demanding rights with our relatives. It's just small as asking your husband, your father, your mom, your brother for your own rights. These women stood up in a society and asked for rights from kings and like, higher level men.
Mhm.
So why not?
So
What is
basically,
if
yeah, basically they did what was right to do,
yeah,
things. And now, in current times, we face this challenge that if I want to do something I want to do, I have to go through a lot of um, a lot of people, to get permissions, to get allowances. Why do I need to be allowed to practice basic rights I have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You know, I understand that we might have to fight for our rights. Sometimes we have to speak up, and we may need to demand our rights. But the problem here is demanding or asking for rights is looked down upon. And is it the same for every gender, or is just the women? I personally see that in our culture, we see that women are the ones who are looked down upon if they ask for their basic rights,
yeah.
you know. And
And it,
why is this practice? Who is doing this to us? Because Islam doesn't teach us this. Then who is doing
and
it?
it's a cycle. It's a cycle. It keeps going because the mom goes to the situation, the daughter is taught that, then the daughter, it just keeps going. It's a cycle. Both
Yeah.
the genders are taught that this is how it's supposed to be, and many of them are taught this is how it's supposed to be religiously, which is more problematic.
Hmm.
And that's where it really comes down to know your rights, learn about your
Yeah.
rights. It
Yeah.
really does come down to that, and also go ahead and then demand your rights because these are God-given rights.
Hmm.
No one on this earth can take that right from you.
Take
So
it away from
ask,
you.
demand for it, and
Exactly.
and it's and I think that's the biggest difference between us and the women at that time. They knew their rights. They
Hmm.
learned about it. They lived it, and they knew about their rights, and they demanded it. And
Hmm.
as you said, like now, if we ask for rights, um, we are asked to have patience.
Yeah.
Um,
To be quiet, to be
and if the
patient, to
man is
wait for
demanding,
it.
yeah, and if the
Allah
man
will,
is
Allah
demanding
will reward you. How about Allah will reward you for your patience?
for your
What
patience,
is patience basically? I
patience,
mean, that's another misunderstanding we have. Patience means to be quiet and suffocate
yeah, suffer.
in your silence. That's not patience.
That's
I
not patience.
mean,
You're actually asked not to have that much suffer. Patience. You're supposed to
yeah,
actually fight for your rights
yeah,
and not
yeah,
you. That's also something going to be questioned about.
yeah, yeah.
And that's the funny
So
part of it.
let me ask you this. We both are women here, and we both are belong to the same culture also. And we were raised in similar environments. We saw women around us suffering quietly, not being allowed to speak up, and we both kind of went against it, right? Alhamdulillah. And I'm very grateful to Allah that Allah has given us the strength and the mental capacity to
Mhm.
understand, the awareness to understand and be okay with practicing our rights in this world. How has that changed uh your parenting, because you're a mom, and what I see, I'm a mom of a girl too, you're a mom of a girl, and I have a son too. So we're raising our kids in a different way. I see that there is a difference in how we raise our kids compared to how our moms raised us, because how they were influenced by the society, and we coming from the same society doing something different. So how do you think you are raising your daughter?
It's a huge difference. If it comes down to just being specific gender wise, um, I consciously, so I have a little girl. But if I had a little boy, I would make the conscious effort of making sure that both of them were doing household work, not just my daughter. And so that's the conscious effort. But just to kind of deviate a little bit, what I'm seeing right now is it's starting to get a little more exaggerated. So we come from a family where maybe like it was very, very gender, like based on gender, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this, and your brothers would sit back and enjoy the meal while you cook and clean and everything, and
Right.
that's your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the men are going to eat first, you eat the leftover. If you have none, well, too bad. So, but right now what I'm seeing is it's starting to get a little bit reaching a different spectrum, if you know what I mean. Like it's like becoming a bit too much in the sense like girls are like, oh, I'm not gonna do anything now. We are gonna live separate lives. I am not gonna cook, I'm not gonna clean, I'm not gonna do anything. You're gonna do your thing, I'm gonna do my own thing. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the effort now is to bring it to the middle ground,
To the
to
balance, to
teach
balance, yeah.
both that
Mm-hmm.
especially as a husband and wife, you are each other's half, you're each other's garment.
Partners, yeah.
So you are each other's garment. You need to take care of that garment
Mm-hmm.
equally.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be 100% equal all the time, especially when you become a mom. It's going to be different. But you
Mm-hmm.
have to try your best to get to that middle ground so that
Yeah.
not one person is doing everything and the other person is doing the other everything. You just have to bring it to that middle ground. So with my daughter, my effort is always to kind of tell her like it's okay. Um, for you to go out in the world and have a career. But at the same time, you should be a little family oriented, and you should be able to not just take care of yourself but also your partner, and your partner should be doing the same thing for you.
Mhm,
Have
mhm.
that choice, basically give them that choice. I think the problem that kind of happens is you're not given that choice.
Yeah.
You are pushed into a role, you're pushed into
Mhm.
an label. If you're the elder daughter, you're supposed to be doing this and this. If you're the eldest son, you're supposed to be doing this and this. Sometimes the personality doesn't match up to that role or the label. So I think right now the conscious effort is to look at the child as an individual and also break the habits that you were
It's
taught when
yeah,
you were
yeah.
young, because unconsciously it seeps in. It
Mhm.
does. You have to be aware of it. And I think culture and the way you're brought up is such a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah, I still see that on my side of the family, I still see men being treated differently. And it's not, so I'm not against men. So we're not men haters, are we? We're not, we're not, we're not those kind of feminist women who hate men. We're not that. So I just want to make it clear that we are here for both genders, right? And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given each of us their responsibilities, a role to play. But basic things like cleaning your room, washing your clothes, washing dishes, keeping a house clean, I think, or cooking something, being able to cook and survive. I teach that to my son. And I repeatedly tell him that these are your responsibilities. Take care of your own things. I mean, even I don't do those things for my kids anymore. Um, Probably like since they were 6 or 7 years old, they're taking care of themselves
Yeah,
with a little bit help, of course. But now they're old enough to understand that these basic things, which we learn from Islam, Prophet ﷺ used to do all those
yeah,
basic things
yeah,
by himself, by his own hands, and he would not insist one of his wives to, it's your responsibility to wash my clothes. It's your responsibility to do this for me, and I am not going to touch anything in the house. So that's not how uh, that's not what we learn from Sunnah, and that's exactly what I bring into the picture when I am raising my kids and
mhm,
parenting them around the house or even outside. That whatever my daughter should know, my son should also know all those basic skills. These are life skills
these are life
everybody
skills,
should
right?
know, right? Yeah. So yeah, subhanallah. I don't know where did it come in our society from that girls are the ones who were only going to take care of the house, or boys only going to take care of the outside. These gender roles with an imbalance. And I'm not against the balanced work. Like a mother's role in a child's life is something so important. I believe it's so important. A father cannot play that role. But then again, a father's role in a child's life, a mother
Yeah,
can't fill that void, and I think single parents would know that, understand that, or a child who grew up in a family without one parent, they understand how that, when there is a void in you, it's never filled unless the person who caused that void comes in and plays that role. It's very difficult. I don't know why and where in our societies it came in from, that boys cannot wash dishes, or boys cannot cook, or boys cannot clean or wash their clothes and put them away. I still see that happening in our families.
yeah,
I still see that when when an elderly lady is in the house and my son is working or my husband is working around the house, they are like, oh my god,
yeah,
how is this
yeah,
happening? Why are you doing
yeah.
this? And I am looked at as a bad wife. You know, why do we do that? And when and how is it gonna change?
And it's not even the sad part of it is I used to think it's my mom's generation like that, but it's not. It's actually our generation also,
Yes, yes,
where if my husband is washing dishes or taking care of the child, it's like, oh wow. I'm like, no,
right.
he's also a parent.
Yeah,
He's also a parent. He's not babysitting.
Yeah, he's
That's
not
his child.
babysitting. He's taking care of his own child.
That's his
Yeah,
house,
yeah.
and it's just how it is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially I think right now because the world has changed so much, you kind of have to um, not just look at these are my rights, these are my rights, and come from a place of love. Okay,
Yeah,
come
compassion.
from a place of consideration and understanding, where if you know you work, let's say you work 9 to 5, you come home and your wife is sitting there with the child exhausted, with the house super unclean, cooks nothing is cooked and everything. Have that consideration and understanding that she was at home, yes, but
Mm-hmm.
she was up with that child all night and all day
Mm-hmm.
long. She's exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you did something. You were at home 100, but I think that's the issue. The minute you say that, oh, I was at work all day long, the response is, oh, you think I'm not doing anything at home? Or if it's like I'm taking care of the kids, oh, you think I didn't do anything at work? I was just sitting there. You have to close that, shut down that defense response and just have some empathy for that person in front of you. It's not
Mm-hmm.
going against you. The minute that person is saying that I did this and this and I'm exhausted, it's not going against your what you did. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that person that is saying, I am exhausted. Have
Mm-hmm.
that understanding instead of getting defensive and be like, oh, what do you think? What? I didn't do anything all day long. You
Yeah,
think I was just
yeah,
sitting around?
yeah.
So I think that's so we're really debating here, but I think
No.
that's also something that is an issue. And you also ask, like, where did it come? Where women had this role and men have this role, and it really is how it used to be. Women stayed at home because it was not safe for them to go outside and work. They didn't really have that many professional jobs that they can do and go out and do. They were mothers first, always first, and even today they are still mothers first. I don't care how much the time has changed. You are a mom first,
Yep.
and because your husband cannot nurse the child,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the same hormonal connection that the dad had.
Absolutely.
It's,
Yeah.
it's just that's why there's a difference in the parenting styles of a mom and a dad. It's just
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, mentally very different. And even if you look at it scientifically, they're different. Like how mom's hormones change, how mom's sleeping pattern change depending on that baby. So you're
Mm-hmm.
biologically wired to take care of that child. When the child grows up enough that you can go out and work in the world, that's something you need to sit down and talk to your partner about. What are the responsibilities?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when the problem arises that, okay, both of them are working now. We have to take care of the house together more. We need to decide. And that's a conversation I think everyone should be having, not just when you have kids, but before you have kids, before you get married, you should be having this
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
Yeah.
How do you, what role are you going to be playing when you became a mom or dad? What
Mm-hmm.
will you be doing? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a little different here. And at that time, it was the roles were a little fixed. So it was easier, I think. But just because it was easier doesn't mean it was fair.
Yeah.
Because even at that time, yes, women took care of the household and men went outside and work. They still should be coming home and helping out their wives because their job never ends. Your job ended at five
Yeah.
o'clock. Her never ends.
Which really brings me to, when we have discussed holding a workshop, a marriage workshop, inshallah, premarital workshop, So we're gonna conduct that also in future. We're planning, working on it. So let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in joining that workshop, or I would love to invite the younger generation, the people who are about to get married or near the age of marriage should definitely attend that workshop whenever we plan it, inshallah. So follow us for more. Yeah, so the expectations, you just talked about expectations. We need to talk to each other before we get into a relationship. What do I expect from my husband? What as a wife he expects from me? So all of those things we need to um, really discuss with each other before we get into a relationship and understand each other's expectations of. So, what does Islam tell us? We need to come back to women in Islam. We need to remember that the women of Islam were not only Khadija radiallahu anha or Aisha radiallahu anha or Asiya rahmatullahi alayh, or the wives of the Prophet, all the wives of the Prophets, or the Sahabiyat. They were not the only women of Islam. We also are the women of Islam, and we need to live our lives in a way. So just like in the beginning, you mentioned that we do consider them as our role models, but we really don't do uh, any of what they did. They were
Yeah.
mothers. They were, first of all, they were women. Then they were mothers. They were wives, but they were something beyond that. They did
Yeah.
not limit themselves to only these roles. They were not sitting at home raising kids, and because I'm raising kids, all my job is only to cook and clean and cook and clean and cook and clean. So I know we went around a lot of in different directions, but let's come back to our roles as women of Islam. I personally believe that than we are more than mothers. We are more than wives. The first thing we do as soon as we get married is that we shut down or close our personal growth.
Yeah.
We say goodbye to that. All my life is my husband and my kids now. And
That's your goal
I
in
really
life.
don't need to pursue my passions. I really don't need to work on myself. My life stops at whatever age I got married. And for the next 20, 25 years, I'm just dedicated to my household, which is nothing wrong with that. But then we are ignoring or neglecting a very important part of ourselves. And because of which I've seen so many of the women suffer, right? When you are not
Emotionally,
experiencing,
mentally. Yeah.
yeah, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, financially, we're
Mhm.
nowhere. Most of us are nowhere financially. So when we neglect our self growth, we where do we stand? 10 years, 20 years later, where are we?
That is I think, the biggest problem because, as you said, like the those women like Asiya radiallahu anha and Khadija radiallahu anha, she was a businesswoman. She she had multiple identities, not just a mother and not just a wife, but she had other identities. She had run a business. So that's I think the issue that culturally we are, even since we are kids, we girls are brought up to live for the husband and the husband's family, because every interaction is about what are you going to do after you get married. Everything. It's like, oh, you don't know how to cook. What are you going to do? What are you going to feed your husband? It's every single aspect of your life is about your husband. So now you get married. Now you have a husband. Now what? I'll have a child. Become a mom. Fine. You have a child. Now what? The child grows up. The child goes out in the world. Now what? You're a wife, but you didn't connect to your husband maybe in that 18, 20 years. So maybe that divide is there because you didn't connect to your husband because you became a mother. That's it. Because
Mm-hmm.
you were told to be a mother and that's it. Your husband was to the side now. So
Mm-hmm.
now your kid is out in the world, and what are you now? Who are you now?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't grow yourself. You didn't create any kind of identity or anything that was purely yours that you could thrive in. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the issue when you are a young mother also. When you have a child, you have this, at least I did. When I had a child, I was like, okay, I have a child. Now what? What do I do with myself? What am I supposed to do now? Because you're a wife, you're a mom, and you are awake all night and you're exhausted and you're thinking like, I don't know myself, because your priorities change. Everything changes the minute you have a kid. And the whole priority is this kid. Now, okay, you wait 3 years, the kid is off to school. You have now time to think about yourself a little bit, and you're like, who am I?
Yeah.
What do I do with myself? And that's I think, A lot of women, I think, especially young moms, go through a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, and just a lot of health because just the whole identity changes and you have no idea who you are. And also, the biggest change is you don't have that village around you to help you. So it's all you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all you. Back home, at least, or in joint family systems, you have other people helping you out. So you feel a little bit, um, you get a little bit of relief here and there. But because you were concerned with that one identity and everyone told you this is it, your life stops here, this is your end goal, and you reach your goal, what do you do now?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of women struggle finding. And alhamdulillah, I've seen a lot of women who found passions, who have found businesses, who have grown businesses.
Hmm.
Some of them, unfortunately, as you said, financially, they are not ready. Um, they're not educated enough to
Yeah.
financially support
Yeah.
themselves. What
Hmm.
happens then? Because many girls get married when they're 19, they don't,
Yeah.
or 18, or they don't finish their education, or they have a degree from back home which they can't use now. So, what happens if, God forbidding, your husband passes away or you have a divorce? What do you do then? How do you take care of yourself and that child?
Yeah.
And I think that's what the culture and the society doesn't think about because the the daughters are not ready for it. They've always been used to being taken care of, and now they can't, and they're
Mhm.
financially dependent on their husband completely. And finan- being
In
financially
in
dependent on
many
something is,
cases, women have to um, tolerate abuse,
yeah,
and
yeah,
just because they can't go for
can't leave.
divorce because they
What am
can't.
I gonna do? Where am I gonna
Yeah.
go?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no
that's
support.
the
Yeah.
biggest thing. And I think that's why education is so important, and not just
Yeah.
education, not just education, because now I'm seeing doctors who are
Oh yeah.
still in the same mindset. I
Same
think that
mindset.
was a
Yeah.
surprise for me. I met a few doctors, girls, women who were doctors, who were highly educated, but had that mindset.
Yeah.
Um, no, this is it. I can't be a mom and a doctor. I can't be a mom and be anything else than that
Yeah.
that label.
I mean,
And
I feel like you're dead at that the point you married. You as a
you
person
end, yeah, you
is
become your
gone.
husband's. You become
Yeah, you
everything a
belong to
husband
your
wants to be.
husband, you belong to your kids. That's
Yep.
all, you want to serve them. There is nothing wrong with serving your family, so don't get us wrong. We're not talking about that. You should be taking care of your husband. Give them their rights. Your husband, your kids, give them their rights. But also take care of yourselves along with that. Don't
And I
ignore
think that's
yourself.
like the main thing. I think this kind of goes back to when we were talking about the pre-marriage thing. If you are not strong as a person, if you don't know yourself, if you don't have a sense of your own identity,
Mhm.
and if you're depending on other people to give you happiness, if you're depending on other people to make you happy and that fairy tale ending, because in
Mhm.
our culture that is the fairy tale ending. You get
Mhm.
married and it's there, right? It's like you want to travel, do it after marriage. You want to decorate your room, do after marriage. You want to wear this and this, do it after marriage. So it becomes a
Mhm.
fairy tale. So you get married,
Yeah.
and then the husband is like, no, I don't want to
Nothing
travel. I
happens.
don't want you to wear this. I don't want to go out. I don't want you to go with your friends. I don't want you to
Yeah.
stay out late. No, no,
Yeah.
no, no. And you're like, what in the world just happened?
Mhm.
He was supposed to be escape route, but he's not. So find this. I think you need to find within yourself that happiness
Yeah.
because you are the only person who will care enough to take care of yourself.
Mhm.
I don't think it is selfish at all to put yourself first sometimes. If you need a break,
Yeah. Mhm.
walk out of the house, hand over the baby, walk out.
Take
It
that
won't
break.
make you a bad mom.
Take that break. Yeah.
It will not make you a bad person. It will actually make you a better person because you're
Hmm.
taking care of yourself. So when you come home, you're calm and you're not screaming at your baby.
Yeah. And another problem we face, and I've done that in my life, that's a big mistake. When I did not love myself, and I did not put myself first, nobody else would come and tell me, hey, take that break. Hey, you should take care of yourself too. Or it's okay if you need a break. Nobody allowed me. See, this is the power you give to other people. You teach them how to treat you.
Yes.
So that's what I was doing wrong. And a lot of us do that. We allow others to treat us in a very bad way because we treat ourselves in that way, you
And
know?
we taught that. We are taught by our parents that you as a woman, you as a girl, should be giving up your rights to make others comfortable.
Hmm.
There are many girls who gave up their right to education because their parents can only afford to educate the sons.
Yeah,
Or there's so many things. And it's just the funny part of it, it's very naturally expected that you give up your rights to make people, men around you comfortable. And
yeah.
you are taught that since you're a child. So it's a very,
Mhm.
very, very, very hard thing to break, to put yourself first, because you have been taught to put yourself last so people around you are comfortable.
Not
To
even
just,
last, Mary. Sometimes you're not even in the list.
yeah, you're not even in the equation. Sometimes you're
Yeah,
not even part of the equation. You're just like,
yeah.
well, you're supposed to do this. Like it's interesting, I think just interesting when you go for advice. If a woman goes out for advice and says, my husband doesn't does, she is told to do sabr. If a husband goes out and says, my wife doesn't does this, oh, you gotta tell her that you have a right over that. You gotta tell her. And if she has a problem,
Who cares? Who
bye bye.
cares?
Bye bye. You
Yeah,
know, why are you putting up with that? And I think
yeah,
that's the problem. That's the problem, that we are not considering both of them to be individuals with needs.
yeah. We're not.
And I think
Exactly.
that's where women need to stand up for their rights. Know your rights, stand up for it. Because if you don't know it, you're not going to ask for it. You're going to keep
Yeah.
assuming that this is just how it is. This is how
Hmm.
religion is. That's the saddest part. And I talked to
Hmm.
a few women who are like, oh, this is how it is in Islam. So I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
No,
Please
exactly.
educate
Yeah.
yourself, listen to some lectures. This is now how it is. Look at the women of Islam. This is now how it is. It's in our society where it's looked down upon if you marry a widower or um, a woman with children or something, and it's looked down about, and it's almost taboo to do it.
Hmm.
But look back.
Mavish, who is this?
Education is such a big issue. Like we
Yeah.
have almost what 20,000 something hadiths by who? By Asha radiallahu anhu. If
Aisha.
she
Yeah.
had
Oh,
not been there, if she was not
right.
being educated, if she was, we would have like what 90% of it would be lost, like family life, people's that.
Imagine Aisha radiallahu anha just busy decorating her house and cooking.
Nah, this is not my business. This is men's work.
Yeah, I'm not gonna remember anything. Imagine women are also accused of being forgetful, which is, I mean, I'm not saying it's not 100% right. We do forget a lot, but
Humans, we forget. It's
but
us.
imagine
Mom
if
brain.
if Aisha radiallahu anha had the same excuses that, I'm a woman, I'm just gonna take care of my household, and that's all what my responsibilities are.
Yeah.
Would she be narrating these hadiths to us?
Would she be have given that right to do it
Mm-hmm.
if she was not important?
Mm-hmm.
If she as a female was not important,
Mm-hmm.
would she have been given those hadiths?
Yeah. I
And if
mean,
she was not important, would were people listening to her? They were listening to her
mhm,
because
mhm.
she was that important.
Yeah.
Like my thing is like if you think a woman is supposed to be a robot, Allah would have created a robot with no
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah. No brain.
And I think that's like the issue that women tend to forget that we are blessed with so many things. We're blessed with empathy to be able to understand that emotional strength, that physical strength, able to push out a baby. We are blessed in so many ways. So you need to mentally strengthen yourself and stand up for your rights because Allah Ta'ala knows you no matter what. He knows you better than your parents do. And that is why he has given you that rights to demand that rights from your parents, demand it from your husband. Because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, he has given you the rights. You're just not asking for it. It's on you then.
Yeah,
Why are
yeah,
you putting yourself through all that suffering?
yeah,
If
yeah,
women at that time could do it during the time of Jahiliyyah, you
yeah.
can do it.
I think the
If
men
Aisha
also,
Asya could stand up
yeah,
for her husband who was a pharaoh,
yeah,
you can do it.
yeah. See, Asya, rahmatullah alayh, was Fir'aun's wife, right? And she wasn't mentioned in the Quran for cooking uh, amazing dishes, variety of cuisines, and keeping her house neat and clean and well decorated and being obedient to her husband. She was not named mentioned in the Quran for those reasons. Not that you don't do that,
No,
okay?
that's a
What
great
my
skill
point
set to
is,
have. I
she was beyond that.
Yeah,
Those
not
none
you.
of those women are praised for the daily activities which we give so much more importance than we should.
Yeah,
Not that we should
it's
not give
a
them
great
importance,
skill
but
set to have, but
mhm,
it's not. It shouldn't be your life.
yes, it's part of your life. It's all these things are parts of your life, not your life, right? So
Yeah,
we need to be more than that. We need to be beyond that.
yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
And again, it comes back to knowing your worth. It really comes back to knowing your worth. If you know your worth, you will not allow any
Mhm,
person to dictate
mhm.
to you or
Exactly.
talk down to you because you
Yeah.
know yourself. You're self aware about your rights, about who you are as a person. So no one can turn around and gaslight you and say, oh, you're this and this. You
Yeah.
can't, you
Yeah.
know yourself. You know you're
Yeah.
not that person.
Mhm,
And if you know your identity, you know that you are able to do so many things than just this. You can do it.
mhm.
Sometimes it's for some women, it's much harder to do. But I've known women who have pushed through that. It
Yeah.
is possible to push through.
So so is it okay to blame men for that? Because when we say in old times women were able to do all they were able to practice their rights. And I personally seriously believe that the men of that time were also true servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were afraid of Allah. They knew that these women have rights over us and we are supposed to give them their rights. So they were people who feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we may not be surrounded by the people who feared Allah as much, right? So is it okay to blame these men? Who's responsible for us losing our rights? We
You
keep saying
can't
this
blame them.
society is it's a masculine society, and
Sadly, they are also a product, byproduct of this society. And it's the cycle. It's the mother. It goes
okay,
back, I think, to the mother teaching their kids that you as a girl do this, you as a boy do this. If you start talking to your kids that this is how it's supposed to be, this is how your God-given rights are, and make them aware of each other's rights also and
hmm,
their own rights, it
yeah,
will break the cycle there. Because many men, they have been brought up this way, that's their upbringing.
right,
They do change when they have the realization that this is wrong. Many change, but many are not willing to because it benefits them.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
kind of, you can't really blame them. But I would blame it in the sense that if you are getting that education, if your wife is sitting in front of you and telling you that what you're doing is hurting me and this is not, this is wrong, then yes, I would
you should
blame them.
listen. You should
Because
listen.
now you know what you're doing is wrong. Now it's on you to educate yourself and change that behavior the same way you would expect your wife to do it.
Yeah. So when we say, society, we mean who's a society? Who is society?
Who are they? Log, who are
Who's
these log?
yeah.
It's
Who is
us.
the society? We are the
It's
society.
us.
It's
We
us.
are
We
doing
are
it.
the society.
We are
So
doing it.
so where you're at right now as a mother, it's your responsibility to change all of that, right? It's our responsibility as mothers to change this mindset, to uncondition ourselves first and then our children to
Yep.
think the right way. And for that, we need to understand the Quran. Subhanallah, it's so funny. One time, and I got to hear that from another woman, and which is pathetic. That that's when I was having an issue with this person. She goes, "That is why women should not learn Quran because," and I was like, "Why?
I have heard that about education, but this Quran is new.
Why did?"
This is
I know,
new.
right? I mean, it's to this day, and it's been like 7, 8 years ago. To this day, when I this thought comes to my mind of this lady telling me this, who was, by the way, a very religious Niqabi person, telling me that that's why women should not learn Quran.
That's sad.
Because what am I doing wrong? I started to realize my rights, and I started to speak up for them, and I started to feel that I am deserving of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me. That's my fault. That's my crime. I should not be learning Quran because I'm learning these things. I mean, I don't understand where are you
Oh,
coming from.
that,
So, which makes me like kind of feel like women, and we repeat that. We hear this thing a lot that women are their own worst enemies.
yes, sadly, women are, and I have experienced that women will bring a woman down. I would actually say I think the worst culprit is are the women themselves. They're their own enemy because
Mhm.
I have gotten more resistance from other women than I have gotten from men. Like literally, I have
Yeah.
sit down in a circle and I've talked to men, and they're like, "Mm-hmm," and the woman's like, "No, where did you hear this? Give me this citation, this citation, this citation." Okay, I'm giving it to him, giving it to it, and then still nothing
Hmm.
because it has they have been conditioned so very deeply about the, how they're supposed to be that there's the thought of changing that, even though it benefits them, doesn't it's something very resistant to. And I was very surprised by that. That I am telling you that these are your rights. And she's like, no, just no.
Yeah.
And
They
I
refuse
think,
to accept.
yeah, again, it just comes down to learning about your rights
What
and
about not only about our own rights? We refuse to, of course, that's a big point that we don't even want to acknowledge our own rights. And that's
we don't,
to me,
and
that's
then,
really stupid.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we don't want to acknowledge it. And then we make it worse. So this is the worst part. You don't want to acknowledge it, fine. But if other woman is acknowledging it and living it, you also
Yeah.
have a problem with that then.
Yeah. Why do you
So,
think that's the case?
hmm,
Why is that the case?
I have no idea. So, example, let's say you go to a friend's house, you want to do all the cooking and cleaning, you don't want your husband, even if your husband offers help, you're like, no, I'm fine, I'll take care of it. Then you go to a friend's house and whose husband is helping her with the cooking and cleaning and everything, and you have a problem with that. You think that she is doing something wrong because the kitchen is the woman's domain. He should not be there. And why are you making him
Mhm.
do the housework?
Yeah.
So that's, I think, also a problem. Why is that a problem with you? If you consensually agreed, you're going to do
Yeah.
this, you're going to do this.
Mhm.
And that's why I always say your marriage is going to look very different from another person's marriage because they're two different individuals. So you should not be having a problem with that. And as worst as it is that you are not accepting your own rights, fine, that's your choice.
Your choice.
Don't take other people's choice. Don't look at other people and say, "Oh, you're bad for doing this." And I think that's where the woman becomes the worst enemy because then
Yeah. And the
they won't even
reason
let the other woman do anything different or move
have
forward.
anything. You know that what's the reason behind it is jealousy. We need to accept the fact that we do feel jealous of someone else's success. It's all what we do with it. That's natural. It's natural to feel jealous, but what we do with it is the bigger deal. So these women who are discouraging you from accepting your husband's help are doing so because they are not able to get that for themselves.
Hmm.
And they need to establish this persona in society that they are do it all. They've got it under
Yeah.
control. They've got it under control. And they cannot, uh, you know, like they can't take it seeing you in a different setup.
Yeah.
And subhanallah, that's something I learned from the Quran when the disbelievers would discourage believers from believing. And I know it's not exactly the same thing, but this is the lesson I learned from that. When the particular behavior is, Quran mentions, talk about the disbelievers who are discouraging the believers by putting them down, by insulting them, by degrading them, just because they're believing. And the reason is that because they themselves don't want to believe and they don't want to see others succeed either. And that's the kind of people you really don't want to be around. Just run away. Whenever you see this kind of people, run away from them, because they, first of all, they're not going to add any value to your life. Plus they're actually going to take the value away, you know by making you feel so bad for doing something right. Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, yes. You cannot, sometimes they are so resistant that they don't want to talk about it at all. And there's nothing much you can do at that point. You just, I guess, let live. Um, and I think that's also one thing. Why can't we just let live?
No, we,
If
we can't.
something looks different from you, why can't we just let go and let live?
Because your life is my business.
Right. Just if they both are happy,
That's my
genuinely
that's
happy,
my
it's
tea time
working.
talk. Yeah, that's our tea time discussion about
Anti-time
what
discussion.
the other lady's doing in her house and how she with her husband or with her, because we have so much of useless time. We're not doing productive.
Because we are home doing one role when I think as women we
Mhm.
can do so many things. We are
Yes,
natural
we're
multitaskers,
capable.
so we can do so many things.
Yeah, we're very capable. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but we
So
don't
your
want
brain
to.
is
And
working because your brain has nothing right
uh-huh.
now. You're just physically tired. You're not mentally tired. You don't have any growth mentally or
Yeah.
anything that you're giving it to. You're not
Hmm.
learning anything.
Hmm.
So your brain is gonna start wonder and you might go with places that you wouldn't have
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you were doing something a little more productive.
Uh-huh. And,
I
and
think
that's
this,
exactly why we have our elderly women who became the scariest mother-in-laws. I think that's the reason, because
this
they have done nothing else in their lives. And once their kids have married and they have children and they're busy in their lives, these women have nothing to do but to cause problems for others.
and I
And the
think I
empty mind, shaitan, messes with your
yeah,
mind.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think communication is like a huge part of it. I think
Mhm.
culturally we are, I don't know if it was just our family, but we didn't really communicate.
Mhm.
We didn't really what's the word? If there's an issue, we were not given the tools to communicate effectively,
Yeah.
basically.
Mhm.
And I think that's also something that it's a skill to have, not only to talk to your partners and your parents, but also to people,
Yeah.
just to have the communication. Because sometimes I think what happens is we might have a problem with something, but we just don't communicate. We just talk about it behind their back. So
Mhm.
that's also an issue. So it really then again comes down to like, what are you doing with your time?
Yeah, and which is also something we can learn from Islam,
Yeah.
you know, from Quran and from Sunnah, from Sirah. We learn how you should be, anyone elderly, all of our like wise adult people should be so approachable that if I have a problem and I need to discuss, I need help, advice, I should be able to approach my elders or wise people in my family or my circle, that I can approach them with my problem without feeling judged, without
Hmm.
feeling judged. That's the biggest thing
Yeah,
where
sadly,
people.
we're not, many people don't have that relationship. You
Yeah.
can't go to your own, I think that's also one a part of it, to build that relationship with your kids where they're able to come to you. And I think our generation is starting to get that because we didn't get that. Where we can go to our mom, and it's rare where you can go to your mom and dad and ask, like, this is the issues that I'm having, what do I do? Without being yelled at, without
Hmm.
being like, like, what is wrong with you? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's also something. And I think it again goes back to education because if you look at the women before us, they maybe didn't get the traditional education, but they will learn it.
They
They
were.
will learn it in their craft. They will learn it in their own way. They will learn. They knew their religious rights. They
Emotional
knew how to,
intelligence, they
and they
were
were
very
intelligent,
have
and they
emotionally
used it.
intelligent. Yeah.
And they used their intellectual capabilities. They
Mhm.
didn't
Mhm.
just
No. I mean,
shut it down.
anyone could come to the Prophet ﷺ and ask a question. Anyone could come to Prophet ﷺ and um, mention their sin. They just committed and ask
Mm.
him to, make dua for them, and or give them a suggestion or advice to how to stay away from, or whatever, whatever they wanted, whatever was bothering them, they would come to the Prophet ﷺ and talk about it, or the Sahabiyat, or or even the Sahaba. They were so approachable, and these are giants of Islam. Really, I mean, if they had so much approachability, then what's wrong with us?
Yeah,
I would be so
yeah,
arrogant.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a very good point. Like, if you think about it, I like when it comes to learning people. I don't know anyone where I can just go up to them and say something to
Yeah.
them and know that trust. That first of all, they're going to keep it to themselves
Hmm.
and not judge me.
Hmm.
And I'm talking about like people at the masjid, maybe, or even
Hmm.
elderly people in our community
Hmm.
that I can go to. Like family, like I have family in New York, like that's different. But here, where I live, people I don't know, I don't know anyone I can do that with. An elderly person
Yeah.
who I can,
Yeah.
or learned elderly person who I can go to. And I
Hmm.
think that's also a problem because that person is part of society. And if we had more people like that, it will definitely change the society also.
It is. Yeah. So let's be those people, inshallah.
Yeah, yeah, inshallah. Like I think basically the end goal is then for women as women to be self-aware, truly be self-aware of who you are as a person,
Hmm.
and start looking up lectures, start educating yourself on your rights so that you can start maybe not today or even a few years down the line.
Hmm.
But if not asking, at least you're able to teach your kids about it.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
don't have the strength to ask for it, at least you're educating
Yeah.
others about it. And I think another great thing that we could do as women is not to bring other women down.
Oh
Let
yeah,
live.
be support. I know, right? Let's just be
Just
each
let
other
live.
support. Well, what does it take away from you if you say a few kind words or be compassionate or be empathetic towards another woman? What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and also I think another thing, you should have friends that look different than you. You are gonna grow so much if
Yes,
you have
absolutely.
friends,
Yeah,
and I mean racially, I mean
yeah.
physically, even education wise,
Educationally,
age wise, you
intellectually,
are going
yeah, yeah,
widen your circle. Widen
yeah.
your circle. Befriend
Diversity, yeah.
people who look different than you. Because if you're going to befriend the same people as you, you're not going to grow much. You're not going to
Mhm.
have that mental growth
Yeah,
and that tolerance growth. You
yeah,
won't have
yeah.
that. It's much easier to sit here and say I'm okay with this and this kind of person, and but if you start befriending them, if you start accepting them and understanding them, you understand where they're coming from instead of just judging other women Oh,
Yeah.
she wears this and this. Oh, she
Mhm.
works all the, I don't know,
Whatever.
something. Befriend them, get to know them, get to know their struggles, because everyone, all of us have our internal struggles.
Yep.
Mentally, someone might look like the perfect mom, but in her head, she's a mess,
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Um, Befriend them and show empathy. I think I can say as a young mom and living here where I had my parents were not with me, we need empathy because moms are always asked about their kids. No one asks, what are you doing? How are you? How are you taking care of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
No one asks that.
Mm-hmm.
We are more worried about her as a mom. If she's putting her kid in front of the TV, we're gossiping about it for hours instead of thinking maybe that mom just needed a little bit of mental break because she's the most sole care provider right now.
Mm-hmm.
So have empathy, have that understanding for each other. I think if we start lifting each other up a little bit, having a little bit more understanding and just curiosity about each other, like, okay, what's happening with you? And really listening, I think that would really help our log, our society, our cultural
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it.
Yeah,
I think it would really help with that.
yeah,
Instead of just making that quick judgmental call, which is also
yeah.
very part of our culture where we have been brought up with the idea of if a woman does this and this, she is this and this. Um, so we need to break that too. You need to break that pattern and also start teaching your kids. And I think it's important for your kids also to see different kind of women, uh, just different kind of lifestyles. We see that here, but we tend to try to make a bubble out of
Right. Yeah. Okay.
it. So
Yeah.
try to be more women in Islam and try to get that inspiration and try to live
Yeah.
like it,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, be that woman of
Be that
Islam
woman.
that you can be the role model. I know that our few of our previous generations, a couple of our generations have lost connection with the true Islam and the true practices and beliefs of Islam and what the Prophet ﷺ has taught us. We have lost it. We have lost that connection, but it's a blessing that our generation is thinking about it. It's a blessing that we are thinking about it. We want to bring some change. We want to learn. We want to grow. So let's be those women of Islam, which inshallah, maybe, from 50, 60 years later, 100 years later, people probably, I hope, they're talking about us in a
Yeah,
good way.
hopefully, like 20 years down the line, 30, we're not talking about the same thing. I really hope we are not, our
Yeah,
kids are not talking about the same thing, about
yeah,
the same struggle. It
yeah.
will be sad. It would be really, really, I think it would be something, a problem with us if we
Hmm.
didn't do anything that even 20 years down the line, they're talking like this. If women are still feeling this way, um, it's a problem.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, it's our responsibility. It's on our
Yeah,
shoulders.
yeah,
We need to bring the change. We
yeah.
need to
Teach
all
your kids, and not only your kids, but
other
teach
kids.
other
Yeah,
kids, other people kids
yeah,
too. If, for example, if someone is talking about your kids' uh, uh, skin color, talk to them about it. Don't get offended and leave in a huff. Talk
yeah.
to them about it, why it is wrong, and shut them down.
Right.
Right? That's how it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because if that woman, or it's usually woman, is talking to your kid about your kid's skin color, guess what she's doing to her own kid?
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk to her about it.
Exactly. And that's very, I
That's
mean,
a skill. That's a
in
skill
this
you gotta know.
era, 2022, talking about skin color not being
Very surprising.
accepted as a good
All that's
person.
why I keep saying I'm like that's it's very this where it comes from. It's all colonialism. It's all that's how they broke up countries. That's
Yep.
how they set their own
Yep.
people against each other because based on the skin color. So this
Yeah.
go back, educate yourself. Why are we thinking this way? It's all
Hmm.
colonist thinking.
Yep. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Great talk, Mavish. So, anything else you want to end our discussion with something final message for our viewers?
Just I guess just it kind of really comes down to like two things. So just educate yourself and start implementing it. It
Yep.
really does come down to that. And in any ways you can. It's not easy for everyone. It's not easy for a woman who has not asked for her rights for 20 years to just stand up and ask for it.
Yep.
Start educating your daughter and
Stories.
your son
Yeah.
about it. Just
Hmm.
start somewhere. Keep trying. I think, and that's pretty much the whole thing about our religion is not about perfection or reaching a goal. Our religion is about trying and implementing. It's not only about learning, it's about
Trying.
implementing. It goes hand in hand. You can
Hmm.
have the education of the whole world, but if you're not using it, it's useless.
Yep. Exactly. Like beneficial knowledge is the knowledge what you use, not just knowing something is not enough. You
Yeah.
need to practice it. Yeah. That's it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. So for me also, self-identity is very, very important. You need to know yourself before you can go out in the world. You need to love yourself before you give love out. So this is what Islam teaches us. Everything what we have talked about is go in, tandem with Islam. It's going in the alignment of Islamic teachings. We are not against anything, subhanAllah. And we as men and women need to work as a team together. So for that reason, what's happened has happened, past is past, but future is still ahead of us. And as mothers, we have a huge power over the next generation. It's a huge responsibility and the power, and we're all capable of. When Allah has made you a mother, Allah knows that you are capable of raising that child. And so, if you want to raise a good Muslim, be a good Muslim yourself. If you want to raise a child as a good person, be a good person yourself. So, you want your child, your daughter, and your son not to suffer in the future emotionally, mentally, psychologically, financially. Show them all of these things. Take care of, in respect to yourself, in all these aspects, and lead by example, inshallah. All right. So thank you so much for joining up. That's gonna be a wrap from us. Hit like and share. Leave a comment. Tell us what do you think about this show, and should we continue, or are there
Any more
any other?
topics? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
guys.
any other topic, yes. So share with us whatever you would want us to talk about. If you have a problem, an issue, something that's bothering you, let's chat. All right. Take care of yourselves. Inshallah, see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.